Hey there guys, Steph here again, back to bring you another awareness check. This time we're going to be talking about Tales of Symphonia. So, Tales of Symphonia was originally released in 2004 in North America for the GameCube. I, until recently, have never played a Tales game, and I know this series has been around for a really long time. I did see that Symphonia is the 5th game in the series. I'm actually not sure at this point how many there are. I do know that there is one coming out it's probably this year called Berseria. And so I was just doing a little bit of reading on the series after a Berseria announcement, and so, I just kind of got curious about the series. I knew it's been a really highly revered JRPG series, and seeing as JRPGs are my favorite genre of gaming, I felt that it was probably in my best interest to check out the series. I did see that Symphonia had a PlayStation 3 remake, so what I did is I ended up getting Tales of Symphonia Chronicles, which is an HD remaster of the original Tales of Symphonia from 2004. It also has Tales of Symphonia sequel, which is called Dawn of the New World. I haven't even attempted to look at that yet, so I know nothing about it. Ultimately, the case is that I have not played the original version of this game. As far as I know, there aren't too many version differences between the GameCube and the PlayStation 3. It just looks a little bit better, I think. There were some minor changes made, like some more playable areas, but honestly, I didn't touch the side quests or anything along those lines, so pretty much none of that even mattered to me. It is weird for me to come into a game and be a complete noob. I pretty much just bought Symphonia and said, well, I don't know anything about this game, but I've heard good things about it, so I'm just gonna see what happens and let it be. So with that kind of going, we'll just start with what I think of the graphics of the game. And so all of the games are very anime influenced, and you can tell, and this game specifically does have animated cutscenes at times, which are really cool, and the animation is really beautiful, and I thought that it was stunning, especially in the opening montage sequence that you can watch on the title screen. With the style, the way that the character models look, I was not anticipating at all. I thought it was gonna be a little more realistic looking, but so basically the character models are all... It uses cell shading, which was pretty cool. Cell shading is a method that is specifically used, I think, when it comes to anime-style games. And it basically looks like the world is part of an anime, and so it uses 3D environments that are very, very simplistic. The same tree and mountain models were used everywhere, and the world map is needlessly large in that it's mostly to prolong the length of the game. But basically, when it comes to the actual character models that they use in the game, I was kind of thrown off because I wasn't expecting it to be so chibi style. So that kind of starts to set the tone of the game right there, in that it's kind of got this interesting art style that I really enjoyed the parts that were actually animated, and I really enjoyed the character designs themselves and the artwork that went along with that. But when it came to the actual Lloyd running around on the world map, there was a weird disconnect there, and I wasn't really a big fan of that kind of art style that they stuck with. I felt like it could have benefited if it was slightly more realistic. I feel like I would have appreciated it more if it was a bit less deformed. So overall, the graphics look kind of dated. That's not a game breaker at all. It's just, kind of, I felt that the world map was very bland of a screen to look at. But the dungeon designs, for example, were all fairly unique, and there was a lot going on. There's a dungeon design for pretty much everything, and this game requires you to go visit various temples around the world, and the temples are all very, very in line with their themes. So, you know, you have a fire temple, you have a wind temple, you have a darkness temple, and those sorts of things. So they definitely seem to fit what was going on there. Definitely one thing to check out for sure when it comes to Tales is the soundtrack. I thought that the soundtrack was pretty superb, and I was extremely surprised at how much I enjoyed just going to new places just to find out what the music was going to sound like. It was really cool for me to really compliment something that's like not a Final Fantasy soundtrack, of course, is pretty cool. The battle music was really good, and there are two versions of everything, of course, because the way that this world works is there are two different worlds. First Silverant and then Tetheala, and then these worlds kind of merge together and are part of this ebb and flow of a mana cycle. So I do have to say, though, that I was really disappointed in both of the world map themes. I thought they were kind of both very bland. Definitely the battle themes were very, very sort of like sci-fi influenced, and so that's kind of a teaser that this fantasy game is a little bit more science fiction oriented than I initially thought. When I first started playing, I was fully expecting the classic fantasy game. But then as you go on, it sort of becomes a lot more like Star Ocean, and I'll get into that probably in a bit. It was unexpected and kind of weird too, but I definitely did think that the sort of like future sound was kind of cool, and I definitely looked forward to the battles at any rate. But I can't leave the sound section without talking about the epic theme song called Starry Heaven, which, as I was reading, was not the theme song that they used in the original GameCube version of this game. It was only used in the Japanese version. It was not used in the English version. And so basically it's the same opening sequence animation, but it's set to this like super infectious J-pop song. And I swear, every time I loaded this game up, with the exception of like once or twice, I would listen to the song and watch the animation, just because it was beautiful, and secondly because it is just addictively good. It's so awesome. So definitely go check out the song, because it's amazing. But so, one thing that I do have to talk about is the storyline of this game, because the storyline is kind of a just incorrigible mess, and it uses every cliche in the book, and the writing is pretty terrible.
Here, it's hot coffee.
Thanks.
Hot, isn't it?
Yeah, really hot.
It's actually iced coffee.
What?
I had Genus make it cold.
Oh, yeah. Of course it's cold.
I lied. It's actually hot.
And the voice acting it ranges from decent to really, really horrible. The writers of this game, I don't even know how they still have jobs. It's abysmal. So it's just kind of layering one plot twist after another, but all of the twists are so foreseeable. None of them are even twists. Nothing surprised me by the end, and it was just kind of ridiculousness toppled on top of ridiculousness. And unfortunately, I liked the characters. I didn't dislike any of them, But what basically happens is they're all stock characters, and none of them, I think, are good interpretations of stock characters. They don't get outside of their archetypes. Nobody is redefining their character traits whatsoever, and so I was kind of disappointed in that. Even though I still liked the characters, they grew on me. You know, there's 8 main party members, and then later in the game there comes a point where you can choose to kill Zelos and then replace Zelos' place in your party with Kratos again. So Kratos leaves your party he joins and leaves several times throughout the course of the game because, well, all he really does is betray you over and over and over again. What is kind of cool is this game has an affection point system, and so I tend to actually like games that have that a lot. Depending on how you respond to questions posed by your party members, and like if you see certain events, or if you choose certain people at certain times to do certain tasks, like it affects their invisible point values for the affection system. And so you can find out like who in your party actually likes you and who doesn't really care for you at all. And I do know for sure that if I had played this back in the past, like if I played it in 2005 or 2006, whenever I was playing Star Ocean 3 for the first time, if I was playing this around that time, if I had more time, I would definitely go back through and like play my New Game Plus and be like, well, this time I'm gonna kill Zelos and keep Kratos, because, well, by the time I realized I could do that, it was too late and I had already passed that threshold moment. I definitely would have played around it right now, like because I'm a lot more critical of it now than I would have been if I was younger. I definitely would have had a favorite character. I kind of fluctuated. I thought Sheena was always really cool. I feel like if I was a 12-year-old me, I would have been all over Kratos and would have done everything in my power to kill Zelos and get Kratos back in my party just because he was so cool. This time playing it, I didn't read any spoilers ahead of time. I used a guide in like 1 or 2 moments of just extreme duress. The game is kind of just a weird blend of the fantasy and science fiction, and I already hit on that, but it was really concerning to me that we started this game in a totally believable world that was all about swords and magic and dungeons. And by the end of the game, it was like this huge space opera, and we were like fighting on comets and shit, and we had planets like merging, and it was kind of like just a big what the fuck. So it was basically just kind of, well, enjoy the parts that you do like. And so the parts that I did like were the way that the game played. The battle system by far is like the best thing about this game. It is so addictive, it's so good. It's an action RPG, so you're able to play as all of the characters. I honestly never played as anybody except Lloyd. I didn't try to switch around at all. It just didn't interest me. I just got used to the way that Lloyd handled, and so I just stuck with him. And honestly, like, the guy with the swords is the one I want to be anyway, so it worked out in the end. All of the battles were like super fast paced. There were only a couple of boss battles that kind of went on too long, I thought, and then it was probably usually because I played them badly or I didn't have enough items. So I played the game really aggressively. I mean, the battle system is exactly like Star Ocean's, and I honestly don't know which series came out first. So maybe, you know, one stole from the other, or maybe they were kind of developed concurrently. I don't know. Regardless, it was still like just super awesome. I never grew tired of the combat, which is something that most people get burned out about in RPGs to begin with, but I actually did switch over the controls to so they have auto, semi-auto, and manual, and I switched it from manual to semi-auto so that it did play exactly like Star Ocean. Honestly, I found it just totally refreshing, and everything about it is a lot of fun. It's just so many different ways to just mash on enemies and murder them, and it's fun. So The battle was fun, but playing on the world map and stuff was kind of terrible because the first thing of game design, I think, is that you should figure out what speed your character is going to run at. And he shouldn't be too fast and he shouldn't be too slow. And in this game, Lloyd is definitely way too fucking slow. And there is even an ability you can get that allows Lloyd to run faster. And I feel that the fact that that is a necessary skill to equip is kind of really bad design. And even when you do unlock the ability to run faster, and it does improve Lloyd's speed significantly, but that ability doesn't transcend from the town or dungeon screen to the world map. So you still had to run at the freaking snail's pace to go between towns. Even when you unlock the ability to ride on the dog, it doesn't make traversal any faster. It just changes the perspective of the game. But, as we know, in RPGs, you always get a ship. In this one, we get something called reards. They're like flying bikes, almost. I don't really know what else to call them. But so the reards are absolutely hysterical because the way they worked is that you would have to like hold up to move forward. But the best part is that the reards moved faster sideways than they did going forwards. So once you unlock the reards, I would move sideways for the rest of the game. So you can just imagine seeing the game from a whole new perspective when you play it sideways. If I were to rate this game on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best and a 1 being absolute rubbish, I would probably put it somewhere in the middle. I would give it like a 5.5. And that's because it does so many things right, and a lot of reviewers are willing to look past this game's flaws. Me, I'm not. The plot just chucks loads of garbage at you over and over and repeats itself, and there's not a unique thing in it. The locations are not at all unique. The character designs are cool. The music is really superb, but it's overshadowed by just lackadaisical writing. The voice acting is not that good. So Tales was an interesting experience. The similarities to Star Ocean are like profound, and I wouldn't really stop thinking about like, oh, I kind of wish this was more like Star Ocean in some ways. It was really awesome to finally get introduced to a series that I have seen and heard about for a long time, but just have never known anything about. Just because, like, I don't know if Tales is just not as popular in the West as something like Final Fantasy, but I just haven't seen people with the same amount of passion behind Tales. But I do know that the people who love it, of course, are super passionate about it. And so it was only after I started doing a little bit of reading just about how people are really into the series that kind of made me want to do it myself. Maybe one day there's still an opportunity to go back and replay it and get different, get my other characters and see different endings. But overall, it was a good 55 hours, I think, that I put into it, and I played it over a couple of months because, well, obviously these games are huge, and I felt that this game was a little bit distended in length. It could have easily been 10 hours shorter, and I honestly didn't touch any of the side quests. I didn't get at all into the synthesis or anything like that, which, I had no problems beating the game without going out of my way to grind or doing anything like that. So I enjoyed it for that reason, if nothing else. And I know this game series has been often criticized for its abundance of cliches and its kind of poor storytelling drama, but I'm definitely definitely excited to keep going and get more into the series as time goes. I do want to take the time to thank you for watching this series so far and sticking with me. Probably the next game I'm going to play is going to be a PlayStation 1 classic. I haven't decided what though, so please stay tuned. We'll see if any new good games are coming out in the meantime. But I'll just be hanging in there, and I hope you do too. So thanks for watching, and have a good one.